Hello again, and welcome to Tea Time Tuesday. We are here again, and I hope you guys, I don't know, you see my head? I'm always trying to figure out how to do my head because I always feel like my head is like, you're not seeing my head. Okay, maybe that will work. Every little bit helps, right? Okay, well, thank you for hopping back on, and we're gonna jump right into it. Last week I was talking about Napoli in Love, which was a good, it's becoming a good book, but I'm not in the meat of it yet, so we'll get there. We will get there. So right now, what I want to do is just grab my tea and enjoy a cup of tea before I start talking about gambling for the Duke's daughter, okay? Which is becoming very, very, very interesting. So I'm going to place this down here, take a quick sip of this because I like to drink it when it's nice and hot. And I have not had lunch yet, so I just made something small, nothing too much. So I just have a little sandwich, a little like cold cut sandwich, and it has salami, turkey, American cheese, pickles, and mustard and tomatoes. Nothing fancy, just something simple that I can eat. And then on the side, I just have some boiled eggs that I sliced up. So if you'll join me for a bite to eat, because like I said, I have not eaten, and I've been up since what time? 6 o'clock. Actually, 5:45.
I used to game glitch it to make a real one if it's better.
So I don't know what it is, but any sandwich with pickles and tomato always gives it a very, very nice tart taste. The combination is just awesome. And I didn't even put lettuce in there. It was just tomatoes and pickles and and cold cuts. And you'll be surprised how many, what do you call it, cold cuts or whatever you could put together from your fridge or your cupboard, like crackers and jellies and things like that. You'd be surprised how much stuff you have. Okay, so here we are, and now we're going to talk to you about, what do you call it, gambling for the Duke's daughter. Now, gambling for the Duke's daughter was very interesting because I think I left off where Natalia didn't want to move to Scotland. She wanted to stay in London. But Dylan was like, no, because he had inherited an estate that he didn't know about, that he found out, when everything was falling apart for him. He had found out that his father had left him this estate that wasn't really even up to par. It was like all run down and everything, and then I let him have it kind of thing. And it was in Scotland. So they were like, she wasn't really like interested. She had no intention of leaving London. But because of all the commotion and everything, messing up her reputation, she said, you know what, it might be a good idea just until everything calms down. So they agreed about that, and they were getting ready for the wedding. And it was being, like I said, was being rushed. So, excuse me, it was being rushed. And Clarice, the stepmom, and Dylan the father wanted it to hurry up, get it over with so we can be done with all this, commotion that's going on about what happened between Dylan and his daughter. So he just wants to hurry it up and get it over with. And he goes, no, but that's not fair to Natalia because it takes a while to plan a wedding. And Natalia was, forget it. I don't need all that. Let's just do what father said. Let's just get it over with. So I think it was the next day or a couple of days went by or whatever. And, she was pondering about the whole situation of what happened and stuff. So she went, like she always does, I guess, went to the garden, had a cup of tea, and she was sitting out there exactly at the spot where her and Dylan were caught, embracing and kissing each other. And that was right during the ball that they had previously had. So she was in that spot. So she was recollecting, what happened at that moment, and how that moment just totally changed her whole life, So she's out there sitting on this, stone bench and drinking her tea and pondering about everything that happened. And then all of a sudden, somebody comes up and says, oh, are you thinking about that night, that wonderful night you had? And when she looks up, it was Jonathan, the guy who had made the bet with Dylan. And so she was like, oh, what are you doing here? And she's like, well, if you came to see my father, I'll go get him. And he goes, no, you know perfectly well I came here to see you. And she goes, well, why do you want to see me? For what? We have nothing to say to each other. So they're in that garden. And then, obviously, he was getting a little bit loud with Natalia. And Natalia was like, no, you need to leave. You shouldn't be here. And because you have no right talking to me that way. No, you know why you're here, whatever. Or why I'm here. So when she tried to leave, he ends up, grabbing her and, drawing her to himself, like to his chest. And she's like, didn't know what to do. She's like, you need to leave, you need to go. And he's like, no, you were supposed to put him in his place, not marry him. So, and then at that point, you know, she was like, you know, let me go, struggling with him. And then he had sat her down or pushed her down onto that, you know, stone bench. And, you know, apparently was, you know, kind of like forcing himself on her. And at that moment, you know, Dylan had just arrived to the house. And Clarice, of course, she greeted him and said, oh, you know, if you want to see Natalia, she's out in the garden having a cup of tea. He's like, oh, great. Now I can spend some time with her and, you know, have a few moments so we can talk things out. So he's going back to the garden, you know, where she was at. And as he got closer, you know, he saw the little table wherever she had the tea. And, you know, she wasn't there. So he was like, oh, you know, she's not here. But then as he was getting ready to turn around and leave, he heard a scream. And he's like, oh my God, like, you know, that's, wondering maybe somebody fell or it was Natalia and she got, you know, frightened by a bug or whatever, or a fly or whatever. So, you know, he's like, you know, when he heard the scream, he ran, you know, to see what was going on. He saw, you know, Jonathan, you know, on top of Natalia. And before he could even say anything, Jonathan literally grabbed Natalia and just slapped her. And Jonathan was like, no, Dylan was like, get your hands off of her, get off of her. And so, and then when that happened, of course, you know, Jonathan goes, oh, it's you, and I'm tired of you. I'm tired of you always beating me. And this time you were supposed to go down. And so it's starting to make me think that this is like a whole, who is telling the truth here? Who was on whose side to make Dylan fall? It's like they were all like in this intertwined little game that they were playing, because Jonathan did say you weren't supposed to, you know, help him out, you know. You were supposed to put him in his place and, you know, and not let him win you over. And he goes, and you failed at that. And he goes, oh, then he tells Dylan, you're not going to take away something that was mine in the first place. So that's kind of like, you know, so did they have an agreement that that Natalia and Jonathan, did they both plan this to get back at Dylan? And then Jonathan was like, I'm tired of you always beating me. I want to be, for one time, I want to be the one to beat you. And so all of a sudden they were like, you know, Jonathan was throwing punches and was hitting Dylan. Then Dylan finally was able to get a punch in, you know, and give him a good one. So, of course, during this whole thing, Natalia's on the sideline and she's watching these two men fight over her and stuff like that. So at that point, Natalia was like, okay, well, you know, you guys got to stop. You know, she's seen this, she's frightened. But then her father, the Duke, Clayton, comes in, he sees what's going on. And, you know, he had to stop Dylan, because Dylan just kept punching and punching Jonathan. He goes, no, stop, you're going to kill him. So I guess because everything that he went through when he was, you know, being a soldier in, I don't know what, I forgot what they called, you know, back then, whatever army he was in, you know, he had a lot of anger, and he was taking it out. That anger had arose, and he was just hitting Jonathan. And then Clayton finally said, don't leave him, we'll take care of it from here. And we'll call the magistrates, which the magistrates back in the day were the policemen. So we'll take it from here, you know. And finally, you know, Clayton said, okay, you know, why don't you, asking Dylan, why don't you come with us? And he goes, He goes, no, no, Dad, I want to talk to Blake, you know, Dylan for a bit. And then he looks at her, are you sure after just what happened? Are you sure you want to be alone with anybody? And she gave her dad a look like, don't worry, I'll be okay, I'll be okay. So her and Dylan were finally sitting alone talking. And then after everything that had occurred, she's like, you know, like forgiving Jonathan for what he did, and that he was, the reason he probably did this whole thing was because he was probably drunk. And then Dylan was like, oh, you're ready to forgive him for what he did, but you're not ready to forgive me for what happened. He goes, oh, she goes, no, it's not that. It's that I wasn't expecting this from Jonathan, but I was expecting from you to be forthright and, you know, and sincere with me. And that's how I saw you. And he goes, oh, okay, because of him being dishonest and everything. And he goes, ooh, you know, that hurt, you know. She goes, but, you know, I trusted you. I don't trust Jonathan. I trust you. So we're at the point now where Natalia's seen Dylan as a hero because he saved her from the attack of Jonathan. Of course, Jonathan will probably be taken to jail, but then again, he's also a high-ranking soldier, so they have to talk to his father about it, and I don't know how that's going to go. But again, the whole thing, it just seems to be going around in circles. Like, at first it was Jonathan. Now, at first it was Jonathan making a wager or bet with Dylan, and then, you know, and then Natalia making a wager, or not even a wager, but a bet with Jonathan. So this whole entanglement was who was trying to put one over on who, kind of thing, because it's Jonathan, Dylan, and Natalia. And apparently, you know, after when Dylan finally, well, he thought he won Natalia's heart, Jonathan got mad and said, you know, no, you weren't supposed to let that happen. And the wager of the 2,000, he didn't want the money no more, and he, you know, apparently he got upset, and then him ruining Natalia's reputation and all this stuff. So that's where we're at right now with the gambling for the Duke's daughter. And then we do have Michael that hasn't been in the picture at all, only other than him saying that he wants to be the stand-up guy for Dylan when they get the best man, in other words, that he was really happy for his brother and that he wanted to be the best man. But let's see where this goes. Let's see what happens, or whose first lie is going to appear, you know, who's trying to get over. So we're not done yet. We're still in the thick of it. So that's where we are now. Again, Jonathan is going to be taken into the police are going to take him. Who knows what they're going to do to him? I got to find out what happens. And we'll see how the wedding goes after that, or if somebody gonna, you know, stop the wedding, or something else is gonna come up, which it always seems to be that way, right? Like there's always like somebody always throwing, you know, what is that, a wrench into something?
Hey, Grandma.
A monkey wrench? What?
Do you have a TikTok channel?
No, I don't. No. So that's where we are. And so next week we'll be reading about Napoli in Love. So that's our next read. So I hope you enjoyed the little update that I'm giving you on Gambling for the Duke's Daughter. If you want and go ahead and read it on your own, you could always just go on your Kindle, type in Gambling for the Duke's Daughter. It is free on Kindle if you want to go ahead and read the book, you know, the entire book on your own. You know, you don't have to wait for me to give you an update all the time, but you can search it and find it and, you know, read it for yourself. So far, it's getting good. It is getting good. And like I said, unnappily in love, I haven't gotten to the thick of it, but we'll get there. We will definitely get there. Okay, guys, so that's it for now. Like a fish in the sea. So glad you caught me. And if you enjoy just me sitting here having a bite to eat, and I thank you for joining me to having a bite to eat and sharing this little bits and pieces of what I like to read. Don't, please, I welcome you to comment, like, and subscribe. And we will see you next time on Tea Time Tuesday. Bye.